Hey everybody, welcome back to the CFE.dev YouTube channel. My name's Nick Taylor, not your host, your guest, I guess, on here today. It's just me, flying solo. I'm a senior software engineer over at OpenSauce. If you want to check that out, head on over to opensauce.pizza. Today we're doing even more bleeding edge Next.js. So I'm gonna drop a link, but we started this about a month ago. So I'm gonna drop the first episode here if folks want to check that out. And I'll just go ahead and pin that. And basically, what we've been doing, I'll just bring it up here. We've been going through the Next.js Learn, their tutorial of just ramping up with Next.js with all the new stuff. I'll drop a link to that as well in the chat. Okay, go and I'll just go ahead and show that. So Next.js Conf was somewhat recent. I think it's literally, yeah, it was literally a month ago today, I believe. So there was some new things that were coming out in Next.js. There was a lot of stability improvements. If you do want to check that out, we can just load that up. Next.js 14 blog. There we go. I'll pull this up. Go ahead and share that in the chat. Mm, okay, cool. And we'll go ahead and show that. Cool. So, what we did last time was we went through the learning here. We didn't make it all the way through. There was a lot to do, which is a good thing. So let me just close this here. So we went through the intro, getting started. We covered styling pretty quickly because that's not necessarily anything new in Next.js, but this is like a learn whole Next.js course. So went through the optimizing fonts and images, creating layouts and pages, navigating between pages. We set up a database. We fetched some data. We did static and dynamic rendering, and then we almost finished the streaming module. So that's where we are right now. And you can catch up on all this in the previous video if you'd like to. I also encourage you to just go ahead and do this yourself as well. I'm I've been doing this on my computer, but I haven't pushed it to GitHub because I think it makes more sense if you go through it yourself. So let's go ahead and let's just close this. All right. So this is where I ended up last time. So just to give some context of what we got here, let's go to, and we don't, let me just make sure that tweeted out. Okay, cool. All right, nice. Okay, no, I don't need GitHub either. All right. So this is what we've been working on. There's this dashboard. So I'm going to refresh this and you're going to see things are loading. Um, and then all of a sudden you see the invoices pop in right away. Now, it took that whole dashboard minus the recent revenue it took a little longer to load, and that was because it was waiting on the latest invoices. So what we're looking at here now is, so we did it for the recent revenue, and now it said practice. Let's do the streaming ourselves, the for the latest invoices component. So what it's saying here is we need to pull out the fetch invoices from the actual page, which is dashboard page here, which is here. I'm going to pull that out. And we actually need to bring that into the latest invoices. So because we're bringing it in here, we actually don't need a prop anymore as well. So there's actually no props now. And we're going to do this. Fetch the latest invoices. I've got to import it. What am I saying? So this is what we need. Okay, let's come back over here. It's this in. Cool, cool. And let's just import this. Thank you, TypeScript. Cool. So we're fetching the latest invoices, and that's going to load now. And the only thing we're missing is I think we need a skeleton. So let's look where the revenue chart skeleton is. Okay, and then so we need one here as well, which is the fallback. And I think it's called, I'm going to guess, latest invoices skeleton. There we go. Cool. Oh, sorry, I got to put that in suspense, not on the actual component. So let's go ahead here and let's put a suspense, as they say in French. All right, cool. Did that do that right? No, I did. Okay, cool. And let's close that. Okay, let's save that and let's come over here now and we're gonna refresh this. Did I do that right? Suspense, suspense. Okay, do a full reload. Might be cached, I think is what's going on. Recent revenue, save. Oh, maybe I didn't save it. Interesting. Let's come here. Let's go back to home. Okay, there you go. We got a skeleton there. It just loaded very quickly. So basically, we have those two things loading, and we have like the shell of what we want loading quicker. So that was that to wrap up streaming, I believe. Grouping components. Okay, you're almost there. You need to wrap the card components in suspense. Um, card skeleton. So in your page TSX file, delete your card component. So let's find that. Okay, so we got these all here. Delete the fetch card data. Import a new wrapper called card wrapper. Import a new skeleton called card skeleton. Sure. Okay, and then we're gonna have card wrapper. Okay, so let's just do this. And that's gonna be, oh, sorry, that's in the page, yeah. Export default main dashboard div. Yeah, okay, it's right here. Cool. So let's delete all that. And if you have any questions, feel free to just drop them in the chat. Okay, so we're gonna import these things. So we need the card wrapper. We need the card skeleton, which is there. I think we need to make the card, then move the file into cards.tsx. Okay, so we got the dashboard. Okay, yeah, so we got to create the whole thing here. So let's just copy that. And that's in cards.tsx. So we're in the dashboard, UI dashboard, cards. So let's do this. Cards.tsx. Okay, we got to import that. Cool. Um, let's see, import fetch lib data, UI dashboard. I don't know what else we're missing here. Okay, and come back to the page. Let's import the card wrapper. Cool. Let's see what that gave us. Okay. Let's try it where is the, oh yeah, the card wrapper is up top there. So you saw we had the skeletons there. So cool. That's all good. It's just I should probably slow down my internet actually. Also just like I think it's great to learn your web dev tool, so we can actually slow this down just for a sec. Go into network, you can say instead of no throttling, we could say like fast 3G. Let's bring that down. Let's refresh. Okay, it still seems like it's going pretty fast. Or I think it's just reloading completely. Here, let's go to maybe that's too slow. It's reloading the whole page. Okay, cool. Anyways, we did that bit there. So let's move on here. Refresh the page and you should see all the cards load at the same time. Yes, we do. It's just so fast. Too fast. Too fast, too furious, as they say. Okay, cool. And this is just talking about decide where you plan to place your suspense boundaries. Does depend on a few things. So this is again like web dev's a bit of smoke and mirrors too. So you always wanna make things fast or at least give the appearance of fast. So this is where you decide, where it makes sense. So in this particular case, it made sense to like have a suspense boundary around the recent revenue and latest invoice components as well as the cards. So we kind of get this like boom effect of you get the page instantly and then things pop in as they become available. All right, cool. And I think that wraps it up for this one. I'm not going to go through the quiz, just not because I don't want to, but it's the live stream and I want to try to get through as much as we can. So we're going to dig into partial pre-rendering now. This is an optional thing, but this is also probably the thing that was highlighted the most. Well, maybe not the most, but it's an experimental feature for Next.js 14. There was a lot of I I said this before, it seemed like an underwhelming release, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean it in the sense that, like, there was a lot of speed improvements, the dev, experience got a lot better, just stability and speed there too. But this is, like, the big one that people have been talking about, and, so this kind of I don't know. Some of the folks at Vercel have mentioned that this could be a new paradigm in how data loads going forward for like in terms of architecture for web experiences. So we're gonna take a peek at it. So I'm just gonna kind of read through this. It's the first time I'm seeing this. So partial pre-rendering, it's experimental, like I said. Okay. The content may be updated. Sure. Cool. I have a feeling this will get updated at some point, but this is what we got for today. So we're going to cover what it is, partial pre-rendering. Also, you might see people reference it as PPR. And we're also going to see how it actually works. And I was reading about this before in the UI.dev newsletter. So like currently you kind of have two options. Like if you have a route, it's either static or it's dynamic, but there's not this mix of it per se. So if you call a dynamic function like they say inside your whole route becomes dynamic. Otherwise, it just ends up being like static, like they were saying. So this aligns how most web apps are built today. You either choose between static and dynamic rendering for your entire application or specific routes. But like they're saying, most experiences like routes aren't fully static or dynamic. They're a mixture of it. And so that's what we're going to look into. So if we go back to the dashboard page, what components would you consider static versus dynamic? So I would definitely consider like the sidebar, like basically the navigation, the title, like anything that's not loading potentially data intensive things are the static parts, and the more data intensive things like crunching all these number data here, that's what I would consider the dynamic parts. Okay, so let's kind of see what this is exactly. And right, cool. So yeah, so what is it? So it's a new rendering model called partial pre-rendering in Next 14. Um, so you can render a route with a static loading shell while keeping some parts dynamic. And this kind of, I feel like this is kind of taking from it's not the same thing, but like if you ever worked with service workers or progressive web apps, you have this concept of you can load a shell, which is basically you get this instant thing, which is cached in the browser, and then the dynamic parts load in. Uh, I th- I think it's kind of the same idea, except this is happening from like it's coming from the server side, but it's delivering this static markup first, and then which is your shell, and then you have these pockets of dynamicism that just get streamed in, I believe, if we look down here a bit. Okay, yeah, see, they're saying like the static route is like a shell, which is like I was talking about, and then the dynamic content fills in the holes, and the async holes are loaded in parallel. So yeah, basically things they're all getting loaded at the same time, and when one of them's finished, they pop in, and it just kind of like pop, 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 pop. I guess I don't know if it makes that actual noise, but and this is they're saying is how this is different from how your application behaves today, where the entire route is either fully static or dynamic. And then partial pre-rendering combines ultra-quick edge delivery with fully dynamic capabilities, and we believe it has the potential to become the default rendering model for web applications. So I'm going to copy that link if folks want to check that out. Here we go. And I'll just go ahead and share that. And so this is interesting. So they're saying deliver to the edge. So like we're not going to dig too deep into the edge, but basically the edge is like serving your users as close as possible. So it sounds like they'll instantly get the like the shell, like the static part as close to them as possible, and then the dynamic things come in when they come in. All right. So how does it work? Okay, so there's React's concurrent APIs, and it uses suspense to defer rendering parts. We've already seen suspense, so you typically see that with the fallback, like a skeleton loader or something. I haven't dug into the concurrent APIs too much. We can just take a peek real quick here. I'll drop that in the chat as well. I'm just dropping all kinds of links today. And um, yeah, so React 18 keynote, suspense. I forget. I understand what concurrent is, but I'm trying to remember. Yeah, okay, it's just streaming in, I guess. Okay. Anyways, feel free to check that out. We're gonna keep moving on here. Yeah, okay. This is interesting. The fallback is embedded into the initial static. So if you look at it right now, like with when we have suspense over here, like if I just close the sidebar, suspense has the fallback here, but it's a dynamic region and then it injects the fallback right away, or unless the data is there instantly, which it usually isn't. It injects the card skeleton, for example, and then after that, it will show the actual card wrapper. Whereas this is pretty interesting. Uh, in the static shell it gets sent, the fallback, like the skeleton, is actually literally in the markup that gets rendered to the page. So I do find that super interesting. And then React kind of kicks in on the front end where the interactivity kicks in, and then it knows to replace the skeleton with the actual card wrapper, for example. Okay. And it's saying you don't need to change your code to use it. As long as you're using suspense to wrap the dynamic parts of your route, Next.js will know which parts of the route of yours are static and which are dynamic. Okay. So, okay, this is going over stuff we've done already. Um, we've done the streaming and everything. Okay. Basically, this is just recapping all the stuff we've done so far. So, okay, so how do we opt into it then? I'm assuming, let's go to the Next.js config. Probably under experimental. And let's see here, partial. Is it? Oh, PPR. There, I saw it. Okay. Uh, true, I guess. Let's save that. Oh, did it not like? Oh, yeah, it would help if I closed it. Okay, so PPR true. So experimental, using this will enable React experimental app for the directory. Okay, so let's see here. I might have to restart the dev server. Yeah, it stopped it. So gonna restart the dev server. NR is just my alias for npm run. Okay, that's up and running. It's telling me PPR is enabled in your current version, but we recommend using the latest Canary version. Okay, I'm not going to change that right now, but let's go ahead and refresh here. And okay, we see the skeletons, and then we should eventually, there we go, things pop in. Okay, that's great. So nothing looks different like they're saying. But what I want to do is, and like folks might be used to doing this, you know, you can see the HTML in here. That's the current view of what the markup is and like the state of the HTML is. But that's not what I want to look at. I want to do view page source. So let's, well, first of all, let's, yeah, uh, view page source. Okay, so let's open this. It's going to take a second to load. Okay, it's a little, oh, let's wrap it. Okay. Okay. It's a lot of HTML. I'll give you that. Okay. But let's see if I can find, it's not going to be called skeleton, but um, let's see here. Uh, let's look for, what was it called? Okay. So let's look for dashboard there. Okay. Dashboard, dashboard, dashboard. Actually, it should be, here we go. So, okay. I'm going to zoom this in because it's kind of hard to see. Oops, let's find it. Okay. So we have this H1 here, which is the dashboard, okay? and that's what you see over here. Now, under that, we have collected and pending, and I guarantee you if we look for collected, okay, that's there, but there's no collected. Okay, that maybe that part is, but not the actual. Okay, yeah, here's the skeleton loader I can see. Pending. See here. Okay, all right. This whole part here, it's kind of hard to like I can appreciate that you can't decipher all of this, but this is an SVG here, and this is the actual loader. And this is what they were saying, how in the shell, the loader is injected into the shell, like when it gets rendered, like when it comes from the server. So that's pretty neat. Okay, cool. So we've enabled partial pre-rendering just by setting it to true in the config. Remember that if you are going to use this, this will work only if you're using like suspense and the concurrent APIs. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's continue here. So I think that was like the big thing, which it's kind of funny because it's a cool feature, but it's a little underwhelming in the sense when I showed it because all I did was set something to true in the config. But you can see, like I mentioned in the dashboard view page source, that it's there. And you know what? We could maybe even go. Let me try and show it again. This is again going to be all jumbled, but I'm going to copy it and I'm going to bring it into VS Code here for a second. And I'm going to set the type of this to HTML. Let's just go ahead and format it. So format document. Okay, this might take a second. Um, okay, 542. Okay, so there's some things that actually came in right away. So the 542, which is, where is that? 5. Okay, Emil Kowalski. So some stuff already came in right away because it was fast enough, I guess, coming. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, cool. This is some of the state here. This is actually a server component that was serialized, I believe. Uh, anyways, let's keep moving on. Okay, don't save. Cool, cool. All right. So where were we? All right. Awesome. And I'm just gonna check for a second. Okay. Yeah, no, it's all good. Cool. All right. So let's learn how to use the Next.js APIs, search param, use path name, and use router. Cool. So let's go to the page. So invoices, page. Okay. And we've got nothing in here right now. So this is saying paste the following code. Sure. Save that. Okay. Now spend some time familiarizing yourself with the page and the components we'll be working with. Search pagination in table. So, okay. So we got pagination here. This pagination is the typical pagination, I imagine. So, like you have 5 pages of like products or something, and you can navigate through them with arrows or clicking on like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for the number of pages. We've got a table. Um, is this a Next.js table? I didn't know. Okay, no, it's just coming from UI. Okay. And yeah, we got our suspense boundary as usual. Okay. Okay. This is why use search URL params. Yeah. This is, it's not funny. It's you know, I think when React came out, everybody kind of was like, okay, well, at least back in the day, like when I started using React in like 2015, it's like Redux or component state. And think of like a web think of like a either a store or like maybe some booking site that you've gone to and it's like you've filtered all these things and then you're like, okay, this is awesome. I'm gonna go share it with like my partner or I'm gonna send it to a friend. You send it, they click on the link and then they're back to square one of no filtering. And that's because all that state was probably in either component state or in like some kind of state management like Redux or Zustand or something, or I think it's called Justan. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Um, the thing is, the search params, it's like they're saying here, it's bookmarkable and you can share it. Stuff in there can be read on the server as well. So like it's kind of like one of the, original state management utilities, And it's kind of funny because I dropped a blog post today. It's not about search params, but I'm just gonna go ahead and drop it real quick. Where is it? Yeah, so I dropped this one. It's HTML data attributes. It's one of the original state management libraries as well. But the URL search params is definitely something that's been around forever. And it's like we kind of a lot of e-commerce sites like Amazon has always used this as far as I know, but like it's I don't know, at least in React land, I can't speak for other framework communities, but it's like we kind of shifted away from using it. Like, I don't know, I think we got hyper focused on just using state in like components and like with state management utilities. But anyways, so yeah, it can be read server side and client side, which is good. Yeah, it can be used for analytics and tracking too. Cool. So we've got a use search params that allows you to pull out stuff. And this is just a wrapper around the URL. So it knows to get like the query string and then it can pull out the particular values in there. So like we see in here, we've got page equals one, query equals pending, and that returns you a nice object where it's page is one, query is pending. Um, use path name, it's another hook, custom hook, and that gives you this part here. Again, it's just extracting stuff out of the URL. And then the use router is kind of like able to do a lot of those things. You can get there's a parsed URL query, I think, and there's a bunch of stuff. So yeah, so we're going to capture the user's input, update the URL with search params, keep the URL in sync with the input field, and we're going to update the table to reflect the search query. And this is what I was saying about your filter stays there, so you still see like the same products or whatever you're looking at. So let's go into the search component. Sure. Okay. And you'll notice use client. Okay, so this is interactive. It's client side only. In the input, there is a search, right? Sorry, this is the search input. Cool. And we've got this new handle search function, and we can add an on-change listener to the input element, and that will invoke the handle search. Cool. So let's do that. On change equals handle search, and I imagine we'll have to write that. Yeah, cool. So here we go. Let's pop this in up here, and this actually doesn't need to be in the function search because it's not relying on any kind of state right now, but let's just go ahead with this. Save that. Thank you, Prettier, for auto formatting. Okay, that's good. On change. Oh, yeah, I've got to update it a bit. So we're going to do handle search. So we got E, which is the event, and we're going to say handle. We say E dot target value. So the target is the input, which is here, and the value is whatever the person typed in. And there we go. Let's save that. Cool. Let's test it to see if it's working correctly by looking in the console. Sure. Let's go for it. But I got to make sure what page are we going to for this? What's the page? Slash invoices. Okay. Oh, we're just going over here. So let's open this and I'm going to zoom in. Let's go to the console. Let's clear this. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So I'm going to say best invoice. You see how it's typing it as it changes? That's basically because like every time it changes, it's updating it. So we get best invoice there. Cool. So we see that's working. That's good. Okay, let's go down here. We talked about all that. Okay. Yeah, we added that. Okay, update the URL with the search params. Okay, so let's go back into the search and we need this use search params. Cool. And we're going to say search params. And that's in the search. Boom. Cool. And search params is that. And then if we come down further, handle search, we're going to say cons params. Sounds good. Okay. And URL search params is a web API. Yeah. This is super handy, the URL search params. Never try to just take a URL like the string and like start, trying to break it up. There's APIs in the platform for this. So URL search params is great for that. So, okay, so we're just going to do this. So if there is a term that's coming in as we're typing, we're going to set the query string to that term. Sorry, we're going to set the query key in the query string to the value of term. Otherwise, if it's not present, we just remove it. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the console log. I like to put spaces between things here. I got to take a sip of water here. I'm dying. Okay, so let's come back here. We don't need this open now. And let's close this. So I'm going to say test. Did it do it? What happened? Did I save it? Search. Okay. Okay. New URL search params. Params.set. Interesting. Is it giving me an error? No, it seems to be good. Maybe I'll do a full refresh just to see, but test. Interesting. What's going on? Let's look at the component. So that's search.tsx. See what's happening here. Okay, it's coming in. So it's getting the search params. Okay, let's do that. It says params. Okay, the size is 0. If the term is test, we want to set the query string. Okay. Oh, you know what? It's working. So maybe I just haven't finished things yet. So let's close this for a second. Maybe I just don't know how to read through the whole thing. Okay, now that we have the query string, you can use Next.js's use router and use path names to update the route. Okay, cool. So let's do this. So basically it was working. I was just not finished. Cool. And let's see here. Let's get these. Cool. And we just got to add this at the end now. Now, let's see here. I am curious about one thing. Let's replace. I don't think, well, we'll do it this way, but because this is in a template string, this is going to get coerced to a string. But anyways, let's save it. Let's come back here. And now as I type, we should see, I can't zoom in the URL bar, but let's see here, test. You see how it's adding to the query string? There we go. And if I delete it, we should see the query key disappear, which it does. Okay. Now I just want to do, this is, I don't know if anybody from Next.js team is watching, but I don't think we need to do toString. We might need to because it's a special object, but I just want to see test. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Okay, it's doing something different with it when I don't do toString. So clearly you do need it. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Anyways, that's all good. Just doing a time check, 1:35. We're good. Okay. So we want to keep the URL and input in sync. Yeah. So we're going to use default value instead of value. And the reason why we're doing this is because we want it to be an uncontrolled component and as opposed to a controlled component. And a controlled component is like, uh, React dictates when the value changes it by whatever that value is set to, like a variable, usually like with like a set state. So let's do this. Okay. And just to show, I'm going to change up here. I'm going to say YOLO in capitals, and we should see the input load with YOLO in capitals. So the default value is working here, and I can keep typing. Now, I just want to show the difference real quick. This isn't in the tutorial, but if I set this to value and I come up here, I'll say YOLO 2023. It's going to load with it, but now, oh, interesting. Why is it not control? Oh, because it's the on change, which is changing it, I guess. But if we didn't have an on change there, it would alter it. Like if we did this, let's load this up again. So if I say yo, watch me be, yeah. See now I'm typing and I can't do anything. But if I put it back to default value and save it, it's no longer a controlled component. So yo, that loads up, and then I can start typing again. So anyways, that's just a little tangent. If you're curious about that, React controlled versus uncontrolled. There we go. There we go. I'll drop that in the chat. All right, so that's all good. Oh, and they do talk about it, so never mind. The tutorial does talk about it. Okay, so we want to update the table now. So we have this table component, so that's going to be, we're going to go back into the page. So let's close this. Okay. And we're going to add this like they're saying. So we're going to add search params as a prop and takes a query string and a page and it, okay. And then we get the query from search params dot query. It looks like we can pass in an initial value. Um, and then search params dot page. Okay, cool. All right, so let's do that. So that's this part here. Okay, save that. And then we're going to come down here where there's the suspense. So let's uncomment this. Okay, cool. If you navigate to the table component, you see it has two props, query and current page. Let's see here. Okay, so we got, is this the table? Yeah, okay. All right, and let's see what else. And current page are passed to the fetch filtered invoices. Okay, cool. So if we go to that, uh, where is it? Table.ts invoices. Yeah, we can see the query and the current page are passed in like they're saying, and it does the fetch filtered invoices. Cool. All right. Yeah, that's what we're looking at. Um, so when would you search params versus the search params prop? Okay, they're saying you can use one or the other, depends on whether you're working on the client or the server. Search is a client component, so you use search params, hooks to access the params from the client. But table is a server component that fetches its own data, so you can pass the search params because on the server side, you'll have access to the full URL that's coming in for the route. Okay, and let's do a debounce here. Sure. I'm not going to console log it, but basically, we're just saying we're searching for term whatever. Yeah, exactly. We saw this in the console before, like EM. So let's go ahead and debounce. So we're gonna use debounce. So let's stop the build server real quick, or the dev server, sorry. Um, npm install use debounce. You know what? I'll just paste it since I pasted. Nope, I didn't. Npm install use debounce. Okay. Gonna use debounce callback in search. So let's come back over here. Up. All right, let's add that. And we're just gonna add a debounce callback and wrap the actual handle search. So function, yeah, okay. So we're gonna change this. Const handle search equals use debounce callback. We gotta make this an arrow function. And there, and then we'll do that should be good. And we'll say 300 seconds, sure. Okay, so this will wrap the handle search, but it's going to wait before it types it out. So if we come back, we've got to start this back up because we just installed the debounce. Cool. Uh, all right, so let's look for Steven. Yeah, there we go. Uh, Let me close the sidebar. I think it's because I'm zoomed in too much, but yeah, there we go. No? Yeah, I zoomed out a ton. But we'll zoom back in anyways. There's some overlap there, but I'm zoomed in pretty far. So we can see that that's working. And if I do S, I wait, it does fine. We could do T, and then yeah, there's that 300-second delay as opposed to like look for each one. It's not going to find anything here, but cool. So we can look there. There we go. We found Lee. Okay, cool. So that's working. All right. So debouncing. Okay, we're not going to do the quiz because we've got 18 minutes. Again, I encourage you to go through the whole learning program here and as well go ahead and do the quizzes. Um, I will do them at some point. It's just for sake of time. I'm not going to do it on stream. So we introduced the search feature. It's a table and it displays 6 invoices at a time. It's because the fetch filtered invoices function in data TS returns a max of 6. Adding pagination allows us to go ahead and go through the different pages of data. So I guess that's what we're going to do next. So let's boom, boom. Okay, so let's enable the pagination here, I'm guessing. Or wait, what are we doing first? Total pages. Okay, so we're going to get that. Uh, that's after current page. So let's put that here. Cool. And next, pass the total pages prop to the pagination. Oh, looks like we need to import that, or does it not? Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, total pages is there. So I'm basically just gonna uncomment this. And now let's come back and we should see a pagination component, whatever it looks like, I believe. Um, did I save that? Yeah, okay. Invoices. Oh, interesting. Maybe there's something else still. Oh, whoops, what did I do? Okay, so navigate to the pagination component and okay, we got to do some stuff in there. So pagination. I'm just jumping ahead. I'm like assuming things before I've got through the whole page, so that's on me. Okay, cool. So let's add use path name and use search params in here, and there we go. X default. Get some values in here. Note, comment in this code when you get to this point in the course. Sure. Well, I'm not commenting, I'm putting in code. Cool. So we got path name, search params, current page, and I'm not sure if this is going to be used, but we'll see. Okay, this comment. Okay. Well, there's a few things we got to do first here. Create page URL. Okay, so what this is doing is it's grabbing the URL search params, and then that just gives us a whole access to building a query string. We set a page, we put it to the page number, and then we do the path name, question mark for the query string, and then there's your query string key value pairs that get appended. That gives us the full uh, that gives us the URL with the path and the query string. Okay, that's good. All right, so let's go to handle search again. So that's in the search component. And after params here, so we're going to say set the page to 1. This makes sense. Every time we do a search, it's a new search, so we want to start at the first page of data. So that's what's going on there. Okay. Um, okay, I feel like we missed something in the pagination though. Okay, let's just remove that. Some comment all this. It's a lot in there. Okay, so I think we're good there. All pages. Okay, so we need to add that, and then that might be good. There we go. So now we got our paging, and you can see we can go to different amounts there, the next page and so on, or we can use the arrow keys. Cool, cool. All right. And yeah, so essentially we've implemented paging. We used some custom hooks as well as just web APIs in the platform. Um, yeah, I guess TLDR here is leverage the APIs in the browser for search for a URL when you're either constructing one or taking pieces out of it, like the query string. Cool. All right. We're going to chapter 12. Okay. I think this is maybe where we'll have to end after this. We'll see how far we get in 13 minutes. I do have a hard stop, but there is not too much left, I don't think. If we come here, there's mutating data. Okay. There's some other things here for sure that we could definitely tackle. Maybe we could do it in another stream. Um, but yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4, and then yeah, cool. We'll see. If we don't get to them in another stream, I encourage you, like I said, as always, just go ahead and go through the whole learning course here. It's put together really well. So hat tip to the documentation and DevRel team over there. Okay, so what are server actions and how to use them and to mutate data? Full disclosure, I haven't used server actions yet. I understand the concept, but I haven't used them yet. But we're gonna walk through it, and hopefully, I solidify my understanding. Okay. So React Server Actions allow you to run asynchronous code directly on the server. They eliminate the need to create API endpoints to mutate your data. Instead, you write asynchronous functions that execute on the server and can be invoked from your client or server components. So think of it like as a wrapper to actually call stuff on the back end. And it's like they're saying you're not calling an API endpoint necessarily. Security is top priority. Um, Folks might have seen Sam Selikoff's talk where he had that chunk of SQL and he was inserting it, and it's not SQL injection. It's just it was a simplified example. But it definitely when it started a meme and got people worried. But again, that particular thing wasn't even vulnerable to SQL injection. It was handled anyways. So security is top priority for web apps. They can be vulnerable to various threats. It's where server actions come in. They offer effective security solution, protecting against different types of attacks, securing data, and ensuring authorized access. Server actions achieve this through techniques like post requests, encrypted closures, strict input checks, error message hashing, and host restrictions. Okay, a bunch of stuff. Uh, I'm curious about the encrypted closure, but anyways, let's get practical here. So yeah, so in React, we have a form. Okay, so we have an action and we can create. And so if you've done form stuff before, you typically have an action, which is like to go to a page to do something like, you submit a form to like, I don't know, a payment processor, then it goes to this action, which is the back end somewhere, and then it processes it, and then you get redirected somewhere. This is a little different. It looks like it's creating this function that you can call that, and then it's got the use server here to indicate that it is on the server. So even though it might be in, it might look like it's in client code, it's not technically, I believe. So yeah, they're also deeply integrated with Next.js caching. Okay, so check that out. Cool. So let's create an invoice. So start inside the invoices route, sorry, folder. Where was it? App, dashboard, invoices, and add a new route segment called create and page.tsx. Okay, so let's do new file, create slash page.tsx. Cool. Let's drop this sucker in there. That's not what I meant to drop in. Copy. There we go. Okay, so in this particular page, it gets customers, um, loads this breadcrumb, it looks like, invoices, which goes back to the dashboard. And then there's another item where you can create a new invoice, and then the form is customers form. Sure. Okay. Let's go take a peek at this. Looks like we are good. Oh, create invoice here. Okay. So let's choose Amy Burns, I guess. Amy, you owe me 9.99. And I'm gonna say it's pending. And anything else we gotta read here? Okay, so the form component, you'll see that has a select, and let's see if it's here. Invoices, create form. Okay, yeah, so it has a select. That's where we pick the person, the amount, which is type number, and then an input for paid or pending, and it has a submit button. Okay, and let's look at the submit. Okay, create invoice, and the form itself should, is there no action? Okay. Okay. Now create a server action. Okay, so let's go to lib actions. Okay. New file actions.ts. Okay. New server. Whoops. Not it. Server. Cool. And that means it's only going to run on the server now. F- um, I'm still new to React Server components, but by default, components are React Server components, and you need to explicitly put use client if it's client interactivity. But in this case, we have to use server because it's an action. It's not a component, I guess. Okay, so let's copy the whole thing. Okay, and we've got this form data, and we got create form. So we're going to say put create invoice. Uh, Here, where was it? Form, create form. So there we go. Import button. Close the side here. Then we're going to say action, create invoice. Okay. We don't need this. Accidentally imported that. Okay, cool. All right. Sorry, I just got a alarm saying it's my 5-minute check. Okay. Create invoice. Okay, we want to extract the form data. So let's just gonna copy the whole thing again. So this is in the actions. All right, so we're getting the raw form data. Form data is this is a web API, but we're passing it in here as a parameter. And then we're getting the particular things we need, the customer ID, which is like Amy Burns, the amount 999, and status pending. We're going to log it out. So we can go ahead and do that. This is a server action though, so it's going to log in the server, like in my VS Code instead. So let's go ahead and refresh this. So Amy Burns, 999 pending. We should see, let me just, whoops, just gonna put a bunch of white space in the terminal, and I'm gonna say create invoice, and we should see a console log. There we go. 999 pending. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so if you're working with forms, you can use JavaScript's object.fromEntries to get the actual entries. So, all right, let's go into lib again, and we're going to create a definition. Is there, okay, export type invoice. Is it in here already? Invoice form? No. Okay, let's do invoice. So this is just a TypeScript type. ID string, customer ID string, amount is a number, status is pending or paid. We're not putting this as string. We want to narrow the type so it's only pending or paid, and the date is a string. Cool. Let's save that. Oh, and it's already there, so I don't need to do that. Never mind. Okay. Type of raw form data amount. Um, let's add that to the action. Going fast, fast, fast here. I got literally 3 minutes to go. Normally I would stay on longer, but I have a meeting after, so just just kind of happened that way today. Cool. So let's create the invoice again, and you see we said it's type string, I guess. Okay. All right, we're pulling in Zod here. Okay, so in actions. So let's just paste this whole thing in, create invoice. Okay, so we want to const create invoice async function. Okay, cannot redeclare. What did I, let's hide this. Oh yeah, sorry, this is just copy pasta, my bad. Okay, so then we have this create form schema. So this is Zod, so this is giving you runtime type checking. And so we're just gonna validate it before we go ahead and pop it in. So I'm gonna get rid of the console logs here. Uh, there we go. Okay, and there we go. And we'll say the amount in cents. Okay, sure. There we go. Let's create new dates. Okay. So we're taking a UTC date string, and we're getting the first part of it. You could also do it this way. You could just do this. Cool. Insert the data into your database. That's right. We had a SQL set up. So Zod, let's put that here. Cool. And then we're going to wait. And there's this template string function. So that's after create invoice, all that here. Boom. And then we're going to say revalidate the path and redirect. Okay. So let's go back up here. Okay. And revalidate path and redirect. So, all right. And gonna have to end after this once we add it. So let's go ahead. Whew. Okay. Let's refresh. So Emil, 20,000, sure, paid. And let's create invoice. Did it work? Let's go to invoices. Did I break something? I don't know. I might have. I've done something. Uh, Okay. Cliffhanger. We'll have to continue after from here. Oh, there's a redirect I need to do. Okay, let's do that real quick, and then I'm gonna have to jump off. It's been super fun, kind of like intense speed run in a good way. Let's just pop that in, and then I do have to hop off. Do thank you everybody hanging out today. So let's go back here, create an invoice. Boom, Delba, Yomi, 1900, pending, create invoice. There we go, 1900. Boom, we did it. 2 o'clock on the dot from me. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in a month's time or maybe just before the Christmas holidays for me. Thanks, as always, for hanging out on CFE YouTube channel. And yeah, take care, everybody. Later.